Hello everyone and welcome back to Bobbin's Minecraft Let's Play series featuring the FTB Infinity Evolve Skyblock mod pack. I still have trouble spitting that out. Today's episode we're going to talk a little bit about some Thaumcraft and we're going to talk a little bit about some blood magic, and I also would like to cover a few things that I've sort of done between episodes. There's actually been a lot of time elapsed since I recorded the last episode. And I haven't really been doing anything just really big in that time frame, just a lot of small things that I've demonstrated before for the most part. As you can see from the charming creature in front of me, I have been doing just a little bit of Thaumcraft because that is a tainted sheep. I set up a tainted biome and I will show that in just a minute and talk a little bit about how to get one of those going. Before we get going with the magic mods though, let's do a quick run around the base to see the things that are new. One of them is I have come over here and I needed electrotine desperately. Electrotine is for making the ultimate solar panel right here. And if you drill down through all of these layers, you get to the photovoltaic cell, and each one of these requires a piece of electrotine. The way I drilled down there sort of is a little bit deceptive on how much there is, but it's actually going to be something like, let's see, there's 8 squared, 8 to the 3rd power, 8 to the 4th power, 8 to the 5th power, times 3 electrotine needed. So let's see, that's 2 to the 15th times 3, so it needs about 96,000 electrotine. That's a lot. So I've been sifting sand to get that. That is where it comes from. And you'll notice that these sifters are running very fast. Each one of these has a full stack of speed upgrades in it. I'm generating just sand using, it looks like 8 auto-compressed hammers plus another 7 to go and deal with that, so 15 auto-compressed hammers. It's pouring the sand through there. I think there's probably some excess sand. Yeah, there is. So I could probably put another sieve there to get it going a little faster. You'll notice how fast all of this material is coming through here now. This is just stuff from sifting sand that comes through. I am using an induction furnace to smelt all of the metals that are coming through. I'm not bothering to double the ore at this point. There's just so much of it, it's not worth the trouble. And you can see that there's just a huge amount of material getting pumped through there, and it's going directly into the AE system at that ME interface. So there's a lot of that coming through. I have made some additional solar panels. You can see I've got 3 of them lined up there now. So that is 3/8 of the way to getting the ultimate solar panel, because those are the ones that are the precursors to the ultimate. The other thing along the same lines that I've been working on here is I did create a dire crafting table, and I have partially filled in the recipe for the what is that called? The angel ring? Yeah, the angel ring. Now, all of this stuff is probably going to be pretty straightforward, except that the one piece in the very center is the thermostatic harness. We'll get to that in just a minute. I have not looked at the gravitation suite advanced electric jetpack yet, so I'm going to have to make 2 of those, and there may be quite a bit going for that. There's also an ultimate lap pack that's from gravitation suite, and I don't know what's involved in that. All of this other stuff I've either made or made something very similar, except for the cracked runic plates from blood magic. That shouldn't be a problem either. So most of this stuff has actually been done except for the thermostatic harness. That one is going to be the hard one. If we come over here and look at it, it requires a void chest plate, not bad. It requires a flying ointment from witchery. That's pretty basic. I'm not going to drill down. An air sigil, that's probably not going to be too bad either. The flugel, or however it's pronounced, tiara here, That's from Britannia, and it requires Gaia spirits and an Ender Air bottle. So I'm going to have to visit the end to do this, and I am going to have to do the Gaia spirit fight. I forget what that thing is called. I've never done it before. I've actually only killed the Ender Dragon. Well, I won't say how many times I've killed it. It's not as many as I might like to have killed it. I just usually don't pursue that unless I'm required to. But I am going to have to go to the end and do that. Those are some things that are on the agenda for the near future. So what's going on otherwise? Not really all that much else is new here. Let's take a quick hop over through the Nether, though, to get to the area where I have set up my tainted biome. Now, one of the original functions of the Nether that you don't really see used as often as maybe it could be is transportation, because there's an 8-to-1 scaling factor between the Nether and the overworld. So if I fly over here, I built another Nether gate, and if I go through this Nether gate, it will drop me back into the overworld, but I will be about 1,000 blocks from where I started. And down here we can see that some stuff is going on this little island. And this is where I've been working on my tainted biome. I have made some pretty good progress. It was very slow to start. I have learned quite a bit about how to set up a tainted biome before. I never really bothered doing it before. I mean, if you're playing in the regular overworld, you can find one of these. But in a Skyblock, obviously not. So I set this up. I don't know that I really need it for this mod pack. I just wanted to do it. So I've gotten my... the purple areas are where the tainted biome has taken. And if we look at this island from the side a little closer, you can see that we've got some scattered tainted areas over here. And then we've got a big chunk in the middle. And then we've got just a little bit on the edge here. So here are the things that I have tried, and I will tell you what worked the best. The first thing that I did was I got some bottled taint. And this is just a part of regular Thaumcraft. You need some Vitium aspect and Precantatio in the Crucible, and you throw in another file of Vitium. So you need 8 Vitium total, or 16 total, and I actually got this from Mana Beans. There are a variety of other ways you might get it. I grew it using the Mana Beans. You could also do a Wisp spawner and get the aspect off of the whatever those drops from Wisps are called. I don't remember off the top of my head. Essences, I think. They're the same things you get from nodes. But anyway, you get this and you get one of these bottles. And I actually made 2 of the bottles and I tossed them down here, and I got a total of 10 squares of taint. And it just was not spreading at any reasonable pace. It took forever for it to do anything. It really never did spread, just throwing it down like that. I think eventually it would have, but it was extremely slow. So the next thing I tried was I tried getting a sheep, and I put the sheep down in the area and it died, and then everywhere, and when it did that, it spawned a tainted sheep just like Beauregard over in the base, and everywhere the sheep eats the grass, it will leave behind some of this fibrous taint. The fibrous taint is really sort of the foundation of your of your spreading the tainted biome, because everywhere it spreads to, it immediately takes that whole column all the way from sky to bedrock, if there was bedrock, and makes it into tainted biome. Well, that helped some. I got a lot more little patches of taint around, but it still wasn't really taking off and growing like I wanted to. It did some. I also tried doing a similar thing using a tainted creeper explosion. I got a creeper, I put the creeper down on top of a patch of taint, I stood over it until it, to keep it on the taint, and eventually it was damaged and died from the taint effect. Once that happened, I just went and lured it somewhere convenient and then took and landed and let it come up and blow up on me. And when it did that, it spread taint around. That works too. But what I found really works the best is once you have that initial little bit of fibrous taint on the ground, the column where that is living will be in a tainted biome. So go and get a node, and it can be any node that isn't a pure node. So get a node in a jar and bring it over and just put it down directly on top of your taint. And when you do that, the node will convert into a tainted node. Now you'll notice that this node says tainted. It doesn't actually have any of the Vitium aspect in it. That doesn't matter. This is now a tainted node, and this is in the center of the huge patch that is just solid taint. And so that's how that grew there. And that seems to be the most effective way. So if you want to actually grow a tainted patch and do it quickly, get your bottled taint, throw it down, and then on one of the little tainted spots that it leaves behind, plop down a node and let that node become tainted and convert the area. That seems to be the most effective way. Alright, with that out of the way, I think we're kind of done here. I don't need anything from this area at this point, but I have gotten some crusted taint and I've gotten some tainted soil, and that is useful for some of the agricraft stuff if you want to grow taint tendrils from using agricraft seeds. So returning back to the base, let's look at today's Thaumcraft project. And you may already know what it is because I've shown my inventory a couple times and I've already sort of put some of the materials for it together in my inventory. So if we come back over here to the Thaumcraft area, there are a couple of other things that have happened here. I've created an infusion provider and I set up this Essential terminal, and so I actually have Essential in the AE system now. One problem I had is that the memory modules you've got to have to store that. Every time I crafted one of them, the game crashed. And so what I ended up doing was gathering up the appropriate materials for a bunch of them, deleting them, and then cheating in the memory modules. There was just no practical way to do it without no other way to do it, because when it crashed, when you pulled the item out of the crafting table, at that point you never got the item, and obviously I needed the item, so I did sort of go ahead and cheat it in there, but I did delete the necessary materials to make it so we're really not any better or worse off than we would have been. I have also set up over here a node stabilizer, an advanced node stabilizer, another node stabilizer, and you notice I've got some nodes over here and they are being unhappy with one another. The one with the advanced node stabilizer is safe from being raided by the other two, and so it's sort of just gradually sucking in all of the aspects from the other ones and growing. So it has gotten quite a few different aspects here, and it's well over 100 total in terms of its size. And I'm going to keep growing it a little bit more, and eventually I will take and convert it and use it to charge wands and that sort of thing. For the time being, I've been charging wands over in the blood magic area by killing mobs. Okay, so today's project is going to go right over here, and I can see that I'm going to have to grow some grass here because I haven't done it yet. And what I'm going to do, let me just go ahead and grow the grass, because I'm going to have to wait for that to happen anyway, and I don't want to do it too often. Let's see if we have any. We do. We've got some pasture seeds. These are being made by bees, by the way. I have a bee that produces pasture seeds. Alright, and I will just go ahead and, that'll do. If it gets to the point where I'm ready for it and the grass still hasn't grown everywhere, I'll use a watering can. Alright, as you might have guessed from all the eldritch eyes, the void metal ingot, and the mirrored glass, what we're going to make today is the portal in a box, which is from X Astris. It is a Thaumcraft support item for Skyblocks. I think this gives you a portal over to the Farlands or the Eldritch whatever. I've never used it actually, so I've never been to that spot. So I'm going to go ahead and make the portal. I think it's essentially just like the things in the overworld. It says it needs a 7x7 grassy area to grow it. So we're going to need 2 void metal ingots, 4 eldritch eyes, and all of these aspects here. Let me see if I've got those aspects. 64 each of magic, void, and travel, and 32 of alien. So magic, do we have 64? Yes, we do. Void, do we have 64 of those? No, we do not. We have 8. And travel, only 16 of those. And then the last one was the alienist. We've definitely got enough of that. We got 72 of those. So let me go ahead and cut here, and I will make sure that I've got enough of all of those aspects in the system. It looks like I just wasn't quite prepared, but I'll be back as soon as I get that done. The aspects have all been taken care of now, so let's get started on crafting this. I need to put down 2 void metal ingots and 4 eldritch eyes. And just space them equally out there. And in the center we'll go with the mirrored glass. I think this actually claims to be dangerous. Yes, instability dangerous. I don't really think that's going to be a problem though. We'll just click there and get going. The infusion provider is providing all of the necessary aspects. And we're just waiting on all of this stuff to continue and finish here. While we're waiting on that, I should mention that during the break this silverwood did grow. This one actually has 2 nodes. That's quite nice. I'll have to trim that up and eventually jar those nodes and feed them to this one over here, which is still growing. I'm not actually going to use the portal today. Something happened there. I've been taint poisoned. I hope nothing got knocked off. It looks like everything is still on there. I have not had any problems at all with the infusion altar. That's the first time anything has happened to me or to the crafting process since I started this whole thing. So slow pulling all that stuff. How's progress over here? Oops, stuff got knocked off that time. So this one is apparently very dangerous. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Looks like I lost one of my eldritch eyes. Thankfully I do have more of those. Okay, looks like an explanation is in order. The system crashed. And when I came back in, I found that it was just going to crash again, and I tried it a third time and it crashed again. Basically, right after it loaded, when it was sitting there doing its laggy thing while it first gets everything drawn in, it would just crash again with the same error, which is some sort of bounce check error on the infusion altar. So unfortunately, I was not able to craft it, so I restored it and tried again from scratch that way, and had the same thing happen. Now, it may be that those are related to, the crashes may be related to instability or something, and if I resolve the instability, maybe it wouldn't crash. Unfortunately, I don't have time for that. So, having tried it probably about 5 or 6 times, spent a lot of time on it, I'm going to craft it the NEI way and call it done, and then maybe at some point I will research it further. This item I believe is absolutely necessary to finish the mod pack, so I'm not going to feel too bad about just going ahead and crafting it the other way. So if I go into options, inventory, hit cheat mode, back, these are all of the items that are needed. 4 Eldritch Eyes, 2 Void Metal Ingots, Mirrored Glass, 64 Precantatio, 64 Vacuos, 64 Iter, and 32 Alienus. Let's just go and trash all of these items. And there we go, just about done. Okay, and then get the portal in a box. So we've got one now. Let's go back into options, go back into recipe mode. Alright, so let's go place this thing, and okay, so I'm gonna have to go and replant the grass because I restored from a backup. So let's come over here, and I won't rebuild the fence right now. That'll be fine. And watering can. So if this spawns mobs, I'll just have to deal with it, and eventually I will get an enclosure rebuilt around it if that happens. So we need to just come over here with the watering can and get the grass to finish out. Alright. Some dirt on the edge is probably still okay because it's only got to be 7 by 7 grass, and this platform is 9 by 9. Okay, let's click this thing in the middle and see what happens. Hopefully it does not crash. Okay. Well, let's see if there are more instructions on this, because shift clicking doesn't work. Place a large structure. It must be used over grass in at least a 7 by 7 structure. It doesn't say. Well, I don't know. I guess I'll have to research. The instructions are a little bit vague because that's all it says. It must be used over grass. I guess I'll find out. Okay, let's try this again. I don't know if it's going to work. I gave some depth to the dirt, and I expanded the area, and I removed the torches. Maybe that will be enough. I don't know. We'll see. So I guess the center of it is right about here. It's still not doing anything. I have no idea what you're supposed to do to get this portal in a box to work. And It just doesn't seem to do its thing. Oh, there we go. Finally. I don't know what I did any differently, but we have an Eldritch Obelisk, and there's an R node in the middle of it that I'll scan. And it's a Sinister node. There's nothing here, but maybe something will spawn. We'll just have to see. Alright, so just leaving that for now. What an annoying thing. My tree came back, but apparently no nodes in it this time. A casualty of the crash. Alright. The other thing I want to look at today is blood magic, and hopefully we still have some time for it. If not, I guess I'll just let the episode run a little long because there's not that much that's going to be done here. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and expand the altar, and I want to, I've got a room down here for it. I want to go ahead and install underneath the altar a particular ritual, which is the Well of Suffering. This ritual, as I understand it, I've never used it before. This ritual will allow the altar to automatically kill the mobs. Actually, the ritual will kill the mobs and extract their LP for my benefit. So let's just come down here and place a Master Ritual Stone. Stuff tends to float up in this room because it's got vacuum hoppers above it. So this Master Ritual Stone is actually, I guess, 3 blocks below the altar itself. I've put it there so that it doesn't stick up above the ground. Technically, you could put it up 1, maybe even 2 blocks higher, but definitely 1 block higher. But I don't want it to stick above the pyramid, so I put it a little lower. So the next thing to do is to come over here and just click this with my ritual placement, which I've already set up for Well of Suffering. This one needs 4 air stones, 16 water stones, blah blah blah. It does have to have dusk stones, so I've actually upgraded this ritual placement so that it can place dusk runes. And I'm going to need 36 stones total. I've got 40 here in my inventory, so it should construct just fine. And there we go. So it's done. And if I come up top, we can see where it protrudes at the very highest point right there. So we've got this ritual in place now. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and expand the blood altar. I want to go ahead and take it down to this level, which will make it, I think, tier 5. Let me come over here to, where is that? I'll just put that there since I don't need to get down there anymore. And put these away. The divination sigil will tell me that the altar is currently tier 4. So what we're going to need to do to make it tier 5 is I'm going to have to place 52. There are 13 in this row with 4 sides, so 52 runes and 4 of the block that goes in this place, which is a beacon. So let's come over here to the AE system, and I can do it down here. Okay, so beacon, I do have the recipe for the beacon set up, and so I'm going to go ahead and request 4 beacons. So we now have 4 beacons, and I'm going to need 52 runes. And I've got some runes set up here. I'm going to try to use the runes of capacity, and I think all of the materials are already in there, so let's see if that's true. It's missing 1 reinforced slate. And I think there was one over here. Right there. So 52 runes of capacity, start it up. And it's got to craft a bunch of buckets, but it should have all the iron plates on hand already. This recipe requires 3 buckets. And while it is crafting the rest of those, let me just go ahead and place some of them. So I'll just come over here and begin the construction. I'm not actually going to set up the beacons to where they have any effect on them. I'm just going to put them down here. And then we'll place the first 13 runes. Just wipe out these placeholder blocks. And put the runes down. Like that. Let's see if the rest of them have crafted yet. Lag spike there. Looks like they have. Because I should have 39 left, and I do. So I'm using the runes of capacity here because I do want to expand the capacity of the blood altar. I've found that it's pretty convenient to just craft slates a full stack at a time, but it doesn't have enough capacity to do that for anything other than the lowest tier of slate. So I need to expand my capacity. I still have done very little automation on blood magic, and I'm not sure if I'm going to or not, but I may. It's getting to where it's more practical to do so. Alright, so we've placed all of those. Let's come over here, get our divination sigil, and we now have a tier 5 altar with a capacity of 154 buckets of LP. So that is pretty good. Let's see what happens if we get some mobs in here. It should automatically begin to process them. I do want to go ahead and put an orb in there because the way it works is it draws some LP out of your network, and it puts 5 times that much, unless it's augmented with some runes of sacrifice. It puts 5 times that much LP into your network. Let's see what we got going on here. The creeper doesn't seem to be taking any damage, so I'm going to take that to mean that it is not, the Well of Suffering is not functioning. Let me come over here and get my Dagger of Sacrifice and go ahead and kill all these mobs. And we'll have to figure out what's going on there. Okay, I think the problem is just that I need to activate this thing. I hadn't done anything special but build it, but I think it's got to be activated. So let me click on it here with this weak activation crystal and see if that will do the trick. I hear mobs being damaged, so that does appear to be what needed to be done. So we can tell my noobness with blood magic is showing here, but it does appear to be functioning. Mobs are being damaged. Let's see here. What just happened? There we go. So I can't tell. I should be able to see the... When some more mobs get here, I should be able to see the amount of blood in the altar going up. I temporarily removed my vacuum hoppers. Let me put those back on there. And so yeah, it's going up. And mobs are getting beaten without my involvement. So I guess that's going to be it for this episode. It's been a pretty frustrating episode for me, but that's just because some of these things I have not worked with in the past. But as soon as I get a little better with them, I guess in the next series I do, I'll know how to deal with these things a little better. Magic mods are just not really my thing. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will see you next time.